Welcome to the What Podcast. Today I'm on my own, thinking about, reflection actually. I posted on LinkedIn today a question that was asked of me, which is if you could go back knowing what you know today and go back and tell your 20-year-old self the greatest lessons that you've learned in this life so far. And by so far, I mean at the age of 50, which I turned this year. What would you tell yourself? And I just thought that was a great question. It's such a good question to think about what I've learned and also what, I guess what I want to say is the pace of life. What we think life is at the age of 20 and what I know it to be now are two very different things. And I can also attest to coaching as being the mindset that has really shaped these lessons for me, because I'm not sure that I would have the awareness I have or the perspective that I have if I hadn't become a coach and didn't spend so many hours of my life and energy towards learning the craft, learning the practice, learning the skill, and observing it and educating myself to understand so deeply what these skills and competencies mean in a conversation with others. So the first lesson that I posted is to get up every morning and ask, what do I want today? And the reason that this is the first lesson is because I think that I spent the first 20 years, if not more, of my life getting up and reacting to things around me, reacting to my emotions, reacting to how much sleep I got, reacting to the day's, priorities, what people want of me, what I should be doing as a mother, as a partner, and not really stopping to start my day with, oh, what do I want today? What is my intention for this day? And that is such a powerful thing to do because everything we do begins with intention, whether you know it or not. The intention, whether it's conscious or subconscious, guides your every behavior. And that begins with, what do you want? If you take some time every morning to say, what do I want today? That gives you the power to choose where your attention is going to go. And you start to create an opportunity for yourself with that one simple question that puts you in an offensive state instead of a defensive state, reacting to everything. You get to be in charge. You get to set your priorities. You get to decide how your day will unfold. So that's number one. Number two is no one knows what the future holds. And so what I mean by this is there are so many unpredictables. Who could have guessed COVID, 10 years ago? Would you have thought that there was going to be a COVID, a pandemic? Who could guess, the climate change or the recent results of the election? I don't think that any of us know what's coming, although many of us have hindsight bias where we think, oh yeah, that happened. I absolutely knew that was going to happen. That's a bias. What we do know is that anything is possible. What we do know is that change is certain. What we do know is that every day is an opportunity to take action and make choices that will impact tomorrow. But we can't say that we know we're going to be in a certain place or be with certain someone in 2 years, 10 years, 20 years? We have no idea. And even though we want to think and plan and create strategies and mind maps and all the things that help us, feel sort of like we're in control, feel some certainty, we actually don't know what's going to happen from one day to the next. So we have to treat each day as though we are given a gift to act and be our best. And so that is an important lesson, because when you're young, or I'll speak for myself, when I was young and I thought about, my future, I went to university thinking I was going to become a lawyer. I entered McGill. I enrolled in international politics, and it was because that was a good precursor to law. And then one day, McGill Law had an experiential day where I went to spend a full day at a law firm. And I realized at that moment that law was not for me, that was not going to be my future. But up until that moment, I had planned to be a lawyer. And what we don't know is that things shift every day, especially when we're open to the shifts, when we're open to possibilities as they arise. So thinking that we know the future is a limiting belief. And we want to just be aware of that we don't know the future. We can have plans. We can create a vision. We can be on a mission. We can be very thoughtful and move towards something, but we can't know what the future holds. And the next one is, joy is the most vulnerable feeling you can have. I remember the first time I heard that, it was Brene Brown. She'd been talking, I think it was a YouTube something that I was listening to, and her research, she was talking about her research. And she was talking about vulnerability, of course. She's the expert in vulnerability. And when she said, joy is the most vulnerable feeling, I had to stop and sit and think about it. It's like, oh, okay, interesting. And when it hit me, I got it. Oh my God, did I get it? Joy is so vulnerable because it can be taken at any moment. It is to be human. It's life's predicament, right? We can get so comfortable in a certain state and then be shocked when it's taken away. But the thing is that you don't get to experience joy without experiencing fear and anxiety, because you wouldn't recognize joy if you didn't have those other feelings to compare it to. So joy in its vulnerability is the gift, right? It's the opportunity to embrace something at the risk of losing it. And that makes you hopefully value it so much more. So joy, although it is the most vulnerable place to sit as a human, especially in relation to others, it is also the greatest human experience when you can connect to joy. And so we have to kind of be willing to hold all of life's experiences as they are, and, ask yourself, what would life be like if you didn't allow joy? I would much rather choose a life of joy and risk loss than to never have joy at all. And so that's the, balance of life, the yin and the yang, the dark and the light. And we only know dark when we see light. We only see light when we know darkness. So it's so intertwined, which is such an interesting, complex part of being human. Change is the only guarantee in life. Change is the only guarantee in life. Nothing stays good. Nothing stays bad. Even when it is a long journey of bad, there are highs and lows in every part of it. So, and even in joy, there are, walls that you hit, obstacles that you run into, challenges that you face. So the highs and the lows are the only consistency in life. The changes that we know or that we don't know, that we see coming or we don't see coming. Change is the only certainty. Every single day, the world changes. Every single day. Climate, political, cultural, social. So we have an opportunity to embrace change or to resist it. And a lot of us resist it because we're human, because we want to protect ourselves, right? Our instinct is to protect ourselves, fight, flight, or freeze. And so most of our initial, reaction to change is, oh, I don't like that. Oh, it's uncomfortable. And yet, that's why coaches are so powerful, because we become change agents. We become people who study change, call them change scientists. And that's what I love about coaching, because we dig into all of the different ways that we change as humans and how it affects us. And the opportunity for change that we don't even know exists yet. The perceptions, the things that I don't know what I don't know. This idea that awareness is created, and only in awareness can we choose the change we want. And so what I take from that is that the change that is the opportunity of coaching is what we all want others to experience. We want others to experience the possibilities that come when we evoke awareness, walk up the stairway of consciousness, and realize something about ourselves or the world that we didn't know before. Because you can't change what you don't know. But yet, things are changing around you all the time, whether you know it or not. So this is the perplexity of change, the quandary of change. And it is the biggest opportunity, because it is unavoidable. It is the only guarantee in life that you will experience change. You'll age every single day. You will, one day will never be exactly like the last for whatever reason. Your cells change. The energy around you changes. The universe is changing around you. So change is guaranteed. And if I knew that when I was 20, I probably would have had a little bit less anxiety. Because what we're trying to do when I'm 20 years old, I wanted to control so much what was going to happen to me. I wanted to control the experiences that I was going to have. And I wanted to be certain of my future. I wanted to know exactly what my future was going to be. And so that's what I would say to my younger self. The next one is, through is the only way around. Through is the only way around. Let me say that again, because we often think, or we live in this fantasy that we can get through something without having to experience it. We can go around those yucky feelings. We can go around the lessons learned. And it's just not possible. And when we admit that to ourselves, when we know that going through the hard stuff is how we emerge on the other side more resilient and more capable and more whole, and with a discovery of what you're actually, your potential, what you can do. That's how we grow. I was contemplating the difference between confidence and courage the other day. And I was reading about it, and I forget who it was that was saying, maybe it was Brene Brown again, where she said, confidence is feeling like you can do it. Courage is feeling like you can't do it, but you do it anyway. That's why we admire people who are courageous, because they take steps that feel so uncomfortable, but do it anyway. And when we take courage, we grow confidence, right? It's hand in hand. The more courageous I am to have the experiences that are uncomfortable for me, the more I grow and the more I become confident. It's a really interesting journey in life. And so I really wanted to highlight that the only way to become confident is to go through the discomfort of courage, to step into that yuck, to get to the other side of, oh, I can handle this. I can hold this. I can do this. I will survive. It will not kill me. No matter what, I will survive. And I know, some people listening today might be in a really tough spot. You're facing something really, really hard. Maybe it's a loss, or maybe it's a tough diagnosis, or a challenge at work, a loss of a job, anything. Lost, I don't just mean loss of life. I mean transitions, leaving things behind, change that not everybody invites, empty nest, retirement might be hard. When we're faced at those moments with challenge and we look at it and we sit in it, the only way around it is through. And if I had known that when I was 20, I probably would have had more faith in myself. I probably would have seen that there's a bigger picture. There's something on the other side of this for me. And that would have been somehow comforting, because I feel like when I was 20 anyway, I felt like the world was small. I was in my micro way of thinking. And so that expansive way of thinking, where that the only way around is through, is, I feel, an expansive way to think, because there's so much more than just this moment that you're in. Reminds me of the U2 song, the Stuck in a Moment. So don't get stuck in the moment, and realize that looking for the light on the other side is a really great way to stay in your healthy mindset when it comes to really tough times. The other one is, at every challenge, ask, how is this happening for me? So again, a little bit more about that is the challenges we face at every moment. We know that there is going to be another moment and another moment and another moment, because time stops for no one. And so how is this happening for you puts you in a position of looking for opportunity versus dwelling in the defeat, or dwelling in the fear, or dwelling in the sadness. What is it that you need to learn from this? It's not that it's there's a reason. I'm not going to that point, but I am saying that it's happening for you to learn something, to discover something, to see something you haven't seen yet, to create an opportunity of some kind that you don't know yet. What is it? And when you think, how is this happening for me, instead of why is this happening to me, it's a very powerful position to take. And the other one is, grief exists because you experienced love. Grief, having just completed a grief course with a really incredible community of people that lasted 8 weeks, I know that grief is so layered and so hard. And yet we would not be able to love without grief. To love and to lose is to grieve. And without ever experiencing love, you wouldn't know grief. So would you give up love to not have grief? The other thing that Lucy Hone says is that grief is one of the most natural human experiences, and yet we treat it as though we're trying to avoid it or escape it. And yet everybody experiences grief at some point in their life. Grief may come up not just with loss of life, but there's so many types of grief. So every transition holds a little bit of grief. because we're leaving something behind. Maybe it's an experience. Maybe it's a part of ourselves. And so how do you experience grief could be the first question you ask, but also, what is your relationship with grief? Because when you start to see grief as a sign of love, that is a reframe that might help you to really reflect in the joy of love and loss, and that you had love for you to be grieving now. And that is a gift. The other thing that I would tell myself, well, if I was, 20 years old, I would say that your story is just that. It's your story. That every single one of us has an opportunity to tell our story. And I know this because if you put two people in front of a window and you ask them to look out at a vast landscape, and then they ask them to turn around and tell you what they saw, they will have a different description of what they saw. It will not be exactly the same. It will be different based on the sum of their lived experiences that shapes what they see. And so our stories are literally just that, a story that we tell ourselves and then the world. And so if you know that your story is something that you are telling and it's not fact, it's your interpretation of facts, that you have a choice on how you interpret and what you pay attention to, I think that that gives you a feeling of empowerment. That gives you an opportunity to write your story and to have it develop and rise and fall and turn and twist and all those things in just the way that you want it to. So everything that happens, you have a choice on how you interpret it, because the thing that's happening is happening whether you want to interpret it or not. If you get into a car bumper fender bender and you are in a great mood that day and you find yourself in this situation and you're okay, you're handling it, you're getting on the phone, you're calling your roadside assistance, and then you're like, okay, well, I've got 30 minutes, I'm going to get some work done on my phone, or I'm just going to take a walk, or I'm going to breathe, I'm going to get a coffee, and you handle it. Or you wake up on that very same day, tired and sleep deprived, not in intention mode, but in reactive mode, and the very same thing happens, you could have an entirely different experience. You could sit in your car in blame mode. You could get angry at roadside assistance for not coming sooner. You could, get into an argument with the person who you bumped into. There's so many things that could happen. And it all starts with, how are you in your mind thinking about this situation? How are you ready to face the world and yourself, your mindset? So we have a choice: tell the story of calm and intentionality, or tell the story of, emotional and reactive. And those are stories we tell ourselves. So what story do you want to tell yourself? And if I had known that when I was 20, I think I would have felt more empowered to decide what I was paying attention to instead of just reacting to everything. And then being more of a visionary in terms of intentionality with goals and, what do I want to create for myself? What story do I want to tell at the end of the day about myself and the day I had? That would have been so much more intentional than how I lived my life at that time, which was very reactive. If you want to connect with others, ask a question and shut up. That would be the other lesson I would tell myself. It's such a good one, because when we think about conversations, it's often a bit of a competition, right? You talk, I talk, you talk, I talk. We compete, but we don't spend a lot of time listening. And if we're listening with a bias to confirm what we already know, or for an opportunity to interject, or for an opportunity to judge, often, actually. And so when you think about connection and being a coach, especially, ask a question and shut up. That is the biggest lesson. And that's a lesson I learned from Dan Sullivan, actually, a long, 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 long time ago. And it really stood out because it's simple, and yet we don't do it. We talk over people, we interrupt, we get distracted, we multitask, we don't hold space for others in presence. We try to get so much out of every moment, and it results in a lot of distraction. So that would be a really important lesson. Ask a question and just stop talking and listen and give a person your full attention. Help people feel seen and heard like they matter. That is how we do that. Hearing is not listening. That would be the next one. Hearing is not listening because hearing is passive. Listening is leaning in. Listening is leaning into someone's experience, noticing them, observing them, wanting to know more, leading with curiosity, and really being in the experience with them, as opposed to being in my experience as I listen to you, which is really about interpreting everything you say and relating it back to me. And that's not real listening. So just that lesson that hearing is not listening, and listening is a skill to cultivate. It's something that we have to work on all the time, every day, to be good at it and to be present to it. You are what you think you are. Absolutely. We are what we think. Our minds are so powerful. So paying attention to language, how I speak about myself, my capabilities, who I am, is a really important lesson that I wish I had learned, because I was so self-deprecating and so hard on myself, so riddled with insecurity when I was in 20s and even 30s. Caught up in that story that I told myself that I wasn't good enough. And that was a powerful story in my life for so long. And now, looking back, I realize, first of all, it was part of my journey, and I don't think I could be here today without having gone through that. But it's also an opportunity to help others who are younger, like my kids, who are, 19 and 17, which freaks me out, that I can help them get more out of life younger, with the frame of mind that you are what you think. So pay attention to your thoughts and filter them out. Like, call yourself out on it. If you find yourself saying, I'm not good enough, call yourself out on it and change the language. Change your language. It's so powerful. I am good enough. And I'm good enough right now. And whatever I can't do, I will learn. And so there's this continuity, facing forward, and always, looking for the opportunity of how you can develop into what you want. You don't have to be what you want. You can always develop into what you want. And so that's also, all part of how we think, and the narrator in your head, that voice inside your head that just keeps going until you hit pause. And that's why coaches are so powerful, because we get to mirror back and reflect the limiting language that we hear, to help people step out of it. And the first place to start is to create awareness. If you don't know, you will never change it. So if you're just in this, habitual way of being with this negative conversation in your head all the time, that is, pervasive. So we want to stop it and take time to breathe, build awareness, journal, get coached, create self-awareness so that you can make a change to the voice inside your head. Encourage is being scared and doing it anyway. We spoke about the difference between confidence and courage. So, courage, we admire people who are courageous because they do the things that we are afraid to do that are very uncomfortable. So, courage isn't doing it because you know you can. Courage is doing it even though you know you may not get through it. And that is the greatest life lesson. In fact, it's failure, and failure is a prerequisite to success. Failure is needed to learn, to grow, to reflect, to challenge, to pivot. So, reframing our relationship with failure is a big part of courage. The other lesson is your questions determine what you pay attention to. One of the books that we recommend in our program is Change Your Questions, Change Your Life by Marilee Adams. It's such a good one because she's telling a story, and it's all about how questions shape our lives. The quality of your question will determine the quality of your life. And so what questions are you asking yourself? Tasha Eurich talks about in her work, she's a researcher, and she talks about self-awareness. And she says that the question why, even in self-reflection, is such a terrible question to ask yourself because it puts yourself in justification mode right away. Defense, even in self-reflection. When you ask yourself, why did I do that? Instead, what is possible now is a great question. Or what did I learn from that? And what will I do differently next time? And then what might happen? What becomes possible when I reflect through my experiences from the what question, not the why? And so your questions, even in self-reflection, but also out into the world, shape what you pay attention to, where your energy goes, where your mind goes, where your focus goes. So we want to be asking good, open-ended questions that start with what, not why. And you will age no matter what. So you might as well age smarter, healthier, fitter, or with more experiences in life. Do the things that you've been waiting for. Or, if you say I'm too old to do that, well, you're going to age. You're going to be even older tomorrow. So I don't think that you're ever too old to do anything. And this is a really good one because I hear so often, oh, I'm too old to go back to school. Well, you're going to get older anyway. You might as well age with more information in your mind or more experiences that you've had. So I think that we have, and especially now today with, longevity, lifespan is gone up to, I think it's 85 for women and 80 for men. This is interesting because we're living a lot longer than we used to, and there's more time in retirement because retirement ages haven't changed or caught up yet. And so what will you do with that extra time? Knowing that you could be healthier, smarter, more energy even, if you choose to nurture your age instead of deny it. So I would say to my younger self that, there's so much life to live. The potential is enormous. You're never too old to try something new. And today is a gift. Don't disrespect it. I have a colleague right now who is grieving a loss that is just a terrible loss, a young person taken from the world. And it is tragic. And when I think about that, I think that my responsibility is to live life to the fullest, to get everything out of the day that is given to me. My responsibility to the people who are taken from this world, too young or even old, people who are taken for reasons I can't understand, that my responsibility to them is to make sure that I don't disrespect the life that I have and that every moment matters. even in the moments where I'm not mindful, that I'm still, I have the overall oversight of my life to know that it is a gift to be given life every day, and healthy life and opportunity. And by healthy, I mean a healthy mindset more than anything else, because that is the only thing we can control. We can control our mindset and nothing else. And so I think that it's just when I think about my younger self, I would think, I think if I had really grasped this early on in my life, that life is a gift and it's not to be taken for granted, I don't know, maybe my choices would have been different. I'm not lamenting and I'm not regretting, but I do recognize the opportunity of that mindset because I have it now, and it's so important to me. Every time I wake up, I want to know, how much can I get out of this day? I challenge myself to get as much as I can. And I go to bed exhausted, knowing that I got everything I could out of today. And that is what I feel I owe the people who are taken too soon. And if not you, who then? You know, people, we all have um, an opportunity to discover what we are capable of. And I just read so many stories about people who have done incredible things. And it's not to say that there's not hardship and there's not people in really terrible, difficult positions. But I do think that we have to believe in ourselves. And when we don't believe in ourselves, that we can, seek out someone who believes in us, and that would be a coach for me. Coaches have an opportunity to challenge perspective, but also to evoke awareness to, opportunities that may not be seen. And as individuals, no matter what situation we are in, and we've learned this from Viktor Frankl, we've learned this from so many people, survivors of atrocities. The Stockdale principle that Jim Collins talks about, prisoners of war. There are really terrible circumstances, people riddled with disease, and yet they still find a way to think about how they can be the best at what they want, and go for what they want. So if not you, who? Why not you, in other words? I think about that all the time. I want to write a book. Why not me? A lot of people write a book. Why not me? I have to think about that sometimes, like challenge myself to say, wait a minute, if other people can do it, you can too. And I may not have the same resources, I may not have all the same opportunities, but I do have one thing I can control, and that's my desire. What do I want? And that want will focus my energy and my attention on potentially manifesting what I want. Smart people listen more than they talk. This is something I had to learn later in life that I want to admit, but I've spent the last 13, 14 years really stepping into what that means, what it looks like in daily conversation, especially as a coach. I mean, that was my biggest learning opportunity. So the smartest person in the room is the one that's taking it all in. It's not necessarily the one who's talking. And so thinking about, how do we show up for others, and the opportunity to learn and be the listener more than being the talker. And keep thinking forward no matter what. So I remember standing in my living room. I was a very young mother of 2 kids under 5, and was ready to leave my marriage I had been with my husband for 19 years, not married, obviously. We were together 10, and then I think we got married later. And I was standing there, and my kids were watching a movie, a Disney movie, which I can never remember the name of. But the little character in the movie was saying, keep moving forward, keep moving forward, keep moving forward. He was adopted and he was looking for his parents, and he kept running into, walls. And that was his motto. And ever since that day, um, I have made that my motto: keep moving forward, because you can't change the past. You can't undo what's done. You can only change your relationship to it and set your focus on what's next. I remember watching, I was in some kind of business meeting, and there was a speaker, and the speaker kept saying, "So what now what? So what now what?" And I love that, because it's about that forward focus. Learn everything you can about the past, and then do what you can to make it count. Change your decisions, change your attitude, change the way you show up, do something differently to get a different result. And so keep moving forward, or forward focus, is really a powerful thing for me in my life that I learned, I want to say, when I was 38, and held on to for now, till now. I mean, it's something that I'm very conscious of. Keep moving forward. And be the model of what you want others to be. It's kind of like Gandhi's "be the change you want to see in the world." If we're not willing to model what we want others to be, then I don't think that we can really ask people to be something we're not willing to be. So, yeah, remembering integrity. When we're in integrity with ourselves, we're aligned. And that alignment is a powerful model for others. And I would have probably told my younger self to be more conscious of living in alignment with my values, living in alignment with my truth, my morals, my ethics. Yeah, that would have been a really great lesson for me to hold and recognize and truly honor at the age of 20. And the only thing in your control is you. Especially in the state of the world as it is today, we know that the only thing we have true control over is ourselves. The world exists around us. Things happen that are out of our control all the time. The only thing I can control is how I respond to it. So think about how you want to respond, who you want to be, how you want to show up. Because the only thing that you have control of is you. And that's why I think our minds are the greatest asset we have, and the greatest investment you can make is in your mind. It's in what you know, what you learn, what you pay attention to. So, especially in times like today, where economies and the political climate is so alive and fluctuating and difficult to understand, we can control the one thing that is the most important, which is our internal states and how we show up. And I just had a bird fly on my window in front of me. And the last one is, you are stronger, smarter, more capable than you know. Stronger, smarter, more capable than you know. I hope that you're sitting there right now thinking about the last time that you outdid yourself, the last time that you recognized, whoa, I can do that. Well, I didn't know I could do that. I remember the time I jumped out of a plane at 13,000 feet. That was a moment where I did not think I could do that, and I did it. And wow, what a feeling after. And so you are stronger, more capable, more resilient than you know. And the only way to discover that is to allow yourself to move through the experiences that you're resisting, potentially, or to have experiences that you are stepping into discomfort and doing it anyway, that courage that we talked about. So, whatever it is for you, challenging ourselves to set striving goals is a really great way to grow and to realize your full potential. And when you have those experiences, you're also growing your confidence. So I really wanted to just share some of those life lessons that had come up for me when I was asked the question. It was a really neat exercise, and I would encourage you to do the same. What lessons have you learned up to now in your life that you would want to tell your younger self? Um, and it's a really wonderful way to reflect on the pivotal moments of your life, your strengths, your awareness, your resilience as a human. Even when you think back to the toughest times, you can also see how you got through that time, or you are getting through, or you are just still here. You're showing up to it every day, and that is a big piece. You are showing up, and sometimes that is the bravest thing you can do. So with that, I want to bid you a beautiful Friday. It is a really incredible fall we're having here in Montreal, and just grateful for the weather, for the sun, for the trees, and for you all to be listening in. And please feel free to leave your comments, your questions. Would love to hear from you, and wishing you a wonderful, thoughtful reflection after this episode. Thanks for tuning in.